I never imagined life would offer me a second chance at love. After losing my first husband in a tragic accident, I resigned myself to a quiet, solitary life. But then came Daniel. Gentle, attentive, and everything I never thought I'd find again. We met through mutual friends, and what began as casual companionship blossomed into something deeper. Within a year, we were married. With Daniel came his son, Ethan, a reserved, thoughtful young man who had just turned 17. He wasn't cold, just cautious, as though unsure where to place me in his life. I understood that hesitation. I wasn't trying to be his mother. I only hoped to become someone he could trust. Our home in the suburbs was modest but warm. Daniel worked long hours as an architect, often buried in blueprints and client calls. That left Ethan and me to bridge the quiet spaces at home. At first, it was simple exchanges, me reminding him to eat, him thanking me in short nods. Slowly, we found a rhythm. I helped with his college applications, encouraged his sketching hobby, and sat with him during late-night movie marathons when he couldn't sleep. He started calling me Lena, instead of the polite but distant ma'am. The first time he smiled, genuinely in my presence, I felt a small victory. It was during one of our weekend breakfasts. I had overcooked the pancakes, and he laughed, his guard down just enough to glimpse the boy underneath the walls. In that moment, something softened between us. I felt proud, like I had earned a place in his world. Daniel noticed the growing bond and seemed grateful. "You've brought life back into this house," he said one evening, squeezing my hand as we watched Ethan sketch by the fireplace. I smiled, grateful for the peace that had slowly taken root. But with time, something shifted. Ethan began to linger in conversation longer, his eyes meeting mine with a depth I couldn't quite decipher. He'd remember tiny details: my favorite tea, the way I hummed when I cooked, the book I mentioned offhand but never got around to reading. He bought it for me. A small gesture, sweet and thoughtful. But I felt something odd stir beneath the surface, something I couldn't name. Still, I dismissed it. He was just being kind. After all, we were family now, weren't we? I told myself I was imagining things. I wanted harmony in this new chapter of life, and Ethan had become a part of that. A big part. I never thought to question it. Until, slowly, something about his gaze began to linger too long. Something unspoken settled into the space between us. And though I couldn't quite put my finger on it then, the air in our home had begun to shift, ever so slightly, almost imperceptibly. But shifts, no matter how subtle, always lead somewhere. Time moved forward, as it always does, silent and unquestioning. Ethan was now 20, taller, surer of himself, and undeniably more mature. The boy who once hid behind polite smiles had become a man who spoke with confidence and listened with intent. I noticed these changes as anyone would, but something within me hesitated to name what I felt when he looked at me too closely, or when his compliments lingered a beat too long. Daniel remained engrossed in his work. His architectural firm had landed a series of high-profile projects, and he often traveled or worked late into the night. I never resented him for it. His drive had always been part of who he was, but his absence created a silence in the house. And Ethan filled that silence. We began to share more moments. Long conversations over coffee, walks in the nearby park, debates about films and books. He had become my companion in a way that felt natural at first, even comforting. But comfort, I've learned, can be deceptive. One evening, while discussing a classic novel I'd once loved, Ethan handed me a wrapped parcel. "You mentioned your old copy was lost," he said softly. Inside was a first edition, carefully preserved. My breath caught. "You didn't have to," I whispered, touched. "I wanted to," he replied, his voice steady. "You remember? Things about me. I just wanted to return the favor." That night I couldn't sleep. The gesture had been thoughtful, too thoughtful. I tried to rationalize it. He was simply grateful, perhaps even trying to connect. But something about the intimacy of it unsettled me. I reminded myself that there was no harm in kindness. And yet I felt my thoughts drifting in directions I didn't dare pursue. My closest friend, Mara, noticed the closeness when she visited one weekend. After dinner, as Ethan offered to clean up and I declined, she pulled me aside. "Are you sure there's no confusion there?" she asked gently. I laughed, brushing it off, but her words stayed with me. The next day, Ethan and I watched a film together. At a particularly emotional scene, I turned to find his eyes not on the screen, but on me. The room felt suddenly smaller. He didn't look away. I excused myself to the kitchen, my heart racing. It wasn't just his gaze, it was the quiet gravity of it. There was something there, something forming between us like condensation on glass. It hadn't yet become a drop, but the outline was unmistakable. Daniel returned late that night. As he kissed my cheek and asked about my day, I forced a smile. For the first time, I felt like I was hiding something, even from myself. I had built a bridge to Ethan, brick by brick with care and love, but I was beginning to realize it might not have been a bridge at all. It might have been a line, and I had already crossed it. The atmosphere in the house shifted in ways I could no longer ignore. Daniel, ever perceptive beneath his quiet demeanor, had begun asking vague but pointed questions. "You and Ethan seem close," he remarked one evening as he sifted through work emails. I responded with a casual laugh, trying to sound amused. "He's just grown up. We get along." But I could feel the fragility in my tone, and I knew Daniel heard it too. One rainy afternoon, while tidying the living room, I found a leather-bound journal tucked between the couch cushions. I assumed it was mine, until I opened it. The handwriting was Ethan's. I should have closed it. I didn't. The entries were raw, confessional. They began innocently. Thoughts on life, sketches of ideas, reflections on grief. But as the pages turned, the tone shifted. He wrote about me. "She sees me, really sees me. No one ever has before." My hands trembled. I read on. "The way she smiles when she listens, the way she remembers little things, it means something. It has to." A chill ran through me. He hadn't just misread the closeness. We were living in two entirely different realities. I had thought I was offering warmth, stability. He had mistaken it for love, a different kind of love. The final entry stopped my breath. "I can't keep pretending. I need to tell Dad. She deserves someone who really sees her. Maybe it's me." I dropped the journal as if it had burned me. My heart thudded violently in my chest. I had wanted to build a safe, loving environment, but now I was caught in the wreckage of blurred lines and misplaced emotions. I had never touched him, never hinted at anything romantic. But the weight of what I didn't do, what I failed to prevent, crashed down on me. That evening, I waited until Daniel left for a dinner meeting. Then I asked Ethan to sit with me in the living room. "I found your journal," I said quietly. He didn't deny it. He looked down, shame spreading across his face like ink in water. "I never meant to hurt anyone," he said. But I couldn't stop how I felt. I nodded, my throat tight. But those feelings, thought they can't exist, not like this. "I care about you, Ethan, but I'm your stepmother. This path leads nowhere good." His eyes filled not with anger, but heartbreak. "I just wanted you to see me." "I do," I whispered, "but not the way you hoped." The front door opened. Daniel stood frozen, having heard the final words. His eyes darted between us, confused, wounded. "I think I should go," Ethan said, standing. Neither of us stopped him. Daniel didn't say a word. He simply turned and walked into the kitchen, the silence following him like a storm cloud. And in that silence, the truth echoed louder than any accusation could. Saitid. Days that followed unraveled slowly, like a sweater tugged at a single loose thread. Ethan moved out quietly, leaving behind his belongings and the weight of unspoken goodbyes. He didn't return my calls. I didn't press. Some wounds need silence to begin healing. Daniel, on the other hand, became a shadow in our shared home. He no longer asked about my day. He didn't touch his coffee in the mornings or linger in the living room after dinner. We coexisted in silence, polite but distant. Finally, one evening, I found the courage to sit beside him on the porch, beneath a sky full of stars that neither of us noticed. "I need to explain," I began softly. He didn't look at me, but his hands tightened around the mug in his grasp. I never encouraged it. I didn't see it happening, not until it was too late. I thought I was helping him adjust, being supportive. I didn't realize he had mistaken my care for something else. Daniel closed his eyes, the pain etched into his features. "You should have told me when you first noticed," he said after a long pause. "We're supposed to be partners, Lena." "I know," I whispered, and I was afraid. Afraid of breaking the fragile peace we had. I thought I could fix it quietly. He turned to face me then. "You didn't break it, Lena." He did. But the silence, that hurt more. I nodded, tears gathering but not falling. There was nothing more to confess. Only the long road ahead of repair. Over time, things softened. Daniel began speaking more, not about Ethan, but about us. What we had survived, what we still meant to each other. We sought counseling, not just to mend trust, but to understand how something so fragile could slip between the cracks of a well-meaning home. Ethan reached out months later through a handwritten letter. He apologized, earnestly and thoroughly. He had started therapy. He admitted his feelings had stemmed from grief, confusion, and misdirected longing for connection. He wasn't in love with me, not really. He had clung to the idea of love to fill the absence left by his mother and the chaos of his teen years. I cried reading it, not out of sadness, but relief. There was clarity now, not resolution perhaps, but understanding. Daniel read the letter too. He didn't say much, only folded it carefully and placed it back in the envelope. That night, he reached for my hand beneath the table. A simple gesture, but one that spoke volumes. Life continued, cautious but honest. The betrayal hadn't been physical, but emotional, and yet we chose to face it rather than let it poison what we had built. The past cannot be erased, but it can be learned from. Sometimes, love isn't just about holding on, it's knowing when to rebuild from the ashes.